Here comes a new challenger!
Hello there everyone, and welcome to the Ken analysis. And in this one, I'm going to be talking about, well, Ken. Before I do, I highly suggest you watch my Ryu video, as I will be talking about Ken a little bit less than I did Ryu. I went really in depth with Ryu because I feel a lot of people already kind of shoved off Ryu, saying he's bad, right? Whereas Ken, everyone says Ken is great. You probably know why Ken is great, but in my opinion, I do think he is worse than Ryu, and at times I don't know if I think he's worse than Terry or not. I mean, it's just how my mind is. I flip-flop between who I think is worse or not. But let's list off all the differences in moves that, well, Ken has from Ryu, right? So obviously Ken has command inputs that are different from Ryu, right? Even though he has the half circle, he has a quarter circle back. Not really back, but forward down, right? And you know, in terms of his specials, they're also different. Shoryuken is a bit different. Fireball, different in terms of damage, speed as well, right? Tatsu is obviously different. If we're talking about normal inputs, right? Heavy forward tilt is different, of course. Up air, nair, that's also different. In terms of throws, Hell wheel, right? Different back throw, you know, and standing heavy. Okay, that's a lie. There's one more move that's different. Can you guess what it is? In the comments right now, pause the video and put in the comments, what do you think is the one move Ken has different from Ryu, right? Because every other move I mentioned, right? I mean, this is the same, right? I mean, jab one's the same. This move's the same, right? These tilts, right? Back air, forward air, down air is the same. What move is different in terms of hitbox, hitbox or damage or whatever, right? It's jab 3. Jab 3, for whatever reason, for Ken is a bigger hitbox, which is funny because you won't actually get jab 3 without hitting someone, so it doesn't even really matter unless I guess someone runs into you in like a free-for-all or doubles and they get hit with a third hit of jab. It's so oddly specific, and rarely will you ever see jab 3. And also, I kind of forgot to mention, obviously, you know, Ken has Inazuma kicks also, right? But like, but like, why is jab 3 different? I don't get it. But anyways, those are the differences in moves, right? So now that we got all of that all the way, obviously Ken is also faster on the ground. Technically, in terms of airspeed and such, Ken is the same in terms of stats, but on the ground he is faster than Ryu, both in his walking and running speed. And because of that, you know, carrying momentum forward, he tends to move around the stage a lot faster than Ryu as well, right? So that's also important to take note of. Now, let's talk about why I think Ken is a little bit weaker than Ryu, right? Obviously, I'll make a full breakdown of all the fighting game characters, or we'll just shorten it to FGC, right? So I'm just gonna shorten it to FGC from now on. But between all the FGC, you know what? Fighting game characters, we'll just say FG characters, right? FG characters. Between all the FG characters, right? Ken, Terry, Ryu, and Min Min, she counts. You have to count her. I do sometimes feel Ken is the weakest, if not the second weakest out of all of them. Now, that's not to say that Ken is like a mid-tier or anything. No, I do believe Ken is high tier along with Terry and Ryu. I think all of them are high tier. It's just that if I had to say which one I think is slightly better, then I think it's Ryu. Now, Min Min is obviously a tier above them because I do believe she's top tier, but we're not talking about Min Min, right? So now let's get into the swing of things. Let's talk about Ken's strengths. So in terms of strengths, he has really good pressure at a distance, like swordy distance I'm talking, okay? Like, here we have Terry, all right? Now, down smash covers a big range, and with this down smash, I push him away that much. This means that if Terry, for instance, tried to mash like a tilt or something, right? Or an up smash, or say like an F tilt, that's not gonna hit me. I've effectively put distance between me and my opponent, and so if they say throw out a move, I can either focus and catch it, I can block and punish, right? Say like Marth, for instance, does an F tilt afterwards, or an up B, he's not gonna hit me with that up B out of shield, and I get to, well, punish Marth for throwing out that option, right? I also forgot to mention focus is different from Ryu, but that's pretty obvious. You know, we'll talk about focus in a bit too, so, you know, let's just get straight into it. Let's just continue on. So, in terms of that, it's pretty good. Obviously, also, when it comes to his ledge pressure, thanks to down smash, just like with Ryu, Ken has car cancel. What does this mean is Ken can essentially throw out a special move, right? An input special move before the hitbox of down smash comes off. So there's an example. This basically means that at ledge, Ken can hold down smash and react to whatever option you do. Say for instance, you do a jump, then okay, you do a jump, I'll catch it with Shoryuken. Or if you roll behind, I can catch it with Shoryuken, but turning it around, right? Or Hadouken or whatever, because you can reverse these moves, right? So in terms of ledge pressure, Ken's really good, right? Another thing that Ken has is because of his speed, he can reposition himself better than, say, Ryu up close. This is why things like down smash, roundhouse, and shield is really good, because you can space yourself by shimmying around. Alright, as I forget who said this, but dashing is a commitment. Right, when you dash, you can't immediately shield, but when you walk, you can immediately shield, as an example, and do other such moves, right? I mean, sure, you can cancel from a dash and stuff like that, but overall, shimming around with Ken is really, really good, because now when you want to throw out a move or use a move, right, to punish whatever option your opponent's going to take to get to you or whatever, then obviously, as an example, like if they try to jump at you, well, heavy up tilt has full upper body invincibility, so they're not really going to hit you, right? Okay, that's nice. Let's talk about, how about this move? This F tilt is a super it's super disjointed, right? Like Ken's foot wasn't even touching him. All right. It's pretty safe on shield. It's -8, but max space, I believe it's 7 or 6, one of the two. All right, so you can't really punish Ken for throwing it out. And if it hits, well, you have enough time to react and confirm the hit into, say, like a raw back air. If I can do it, whatever. But you know what a raw back air is, or attack cancel back air. Sorry, right? So you can follow up after it. Go fuck it down here, for instance. You have enough time to react to the hit to get a follow-up, is basically what I'm saying, which is pretty good. And of course, you can get this F tilt from a dash, which is pretty good. So that's nice, right? Now, let's talk about other things that is really good with Ken. Combos. Now, combos is a strength and a weakness, because Ken has very long combos and very long strings, right? The difference between the two, for me anyways, is that combos are true, strings are not, but it's essentially like pressure, right? Or not pressure, it's more like, as an example, say I use this combo right here, right? No, wait, that was the bad one. Here you go. So from here, I can try to follow up with an F tilt. However, the F tilt isn't true, but if they DI away or air dodge, I can do a dash cancel F tilt, right? Say for instance they jump, then I can catch them with the Shoryuken, back air, etc. So when it comes to Ken, he's really good at kind of putting you in uncomfortable situations. He's really good at resetting you, right? I mean, roundhouse, once you get hit with roundhouse, at that point you have only a few options to you, right? Ken can follow up with, not roundhouse, I meant to say crescent kick, but Ken can follow up crescent kick with a roundhouse. He can follow up crescent kick if you decide to, let's say, shield, right? The Ken does this, and then you hold shield. Ken can run up and grab your shield. You know, he can grab you and run up to your shield. He can obviously do something where he just runs up and does, whoops, it's hard to do this when you're only one person, you know what I mean? Hey, but as an example, you could do something like this. Not that. All right, let's try that again. Right, and if I did Inazuma kick, especially at ledge, it can either break shields or shield pokes, and Inazuma kick can kill at 100 or a little bit higher than that too. Right, so when it comes to Ken, essentially, you know, he has really good pressure on shield. This is basically the point I'm trying to get at, and he puts you in a lot of uncomfortable situations. Another benefit to Ken is obviously he has a projectile. Now the projectile in itself, all right, look, it's obviously worse than Ryu's. It does less damage, right? With or without input, it does less damage than what Ryu can do even without an input, right? So damage output, not the greatest. In terms of its speed, I wouldn't say it's as good as Ryu's. Ryu's Hato got buffed that the heavy variation goes faster and the light variation goes slower. But Ken didn't get this change, so Ken's fireballs go at that same speed as before. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing, because a slower projectile or a faster projectile, having the ability to control the speed in which the fireball goes, is still pretty good, because obviously it messes with the opponent's timing, and if they get hit, there's a chance that it will trip. Yes, fireball does trip, and if it does trip, then hey, you can react to the hit. I think it's a very small chance, but if you do get it, then you can get some pretty hefty rewards off of it. And to me, that's always good, right? But that's of course if you get it. And having a projectile also means that he can go for jab blocks even from a distance, and because of his speed, he can follow up and, you know, catch. Either he'll hit you, right? He'll catch you, hit you with like a landing nair, which will also jab block, and then finish the combo. Or, for instance, he just reads your option when you're put in a jab block situation, so he can just catch whatever option you're doing, right? If you roll back, he can catch that. If you roll towards, can catch that get up attack, obviously. And if, say, you tech the down smash, right? If you tech the down smash, you can still throw out a fireball, and the fireball will still catch their tech, right? If they do like standing normal get up or stand tech, roll tech, whatever, it'll still catch them, right? So that's still pretty good. And hey, damage is damage, and I'm not gonna complain. Plus, Hato does have reasonable priority, right? It's a pretty good projectile. It stops some projectiles, obviously because of the speed and how much Ken can't. You can't really spam it out like Ryu, for instance. Then you're obviously not going to win a projectile war, but if someone throws out a projectile that's pretty weak-ish, then Ken's fireball will catch it. Such as Byleth's arrow as an example. Ken's fireball beats Byleth's arrow. Not fully charged, but you know, the first charge. So that's still pretty good. Obviously you have moves like Tatsu, which just takes you for a ride. And one of the best things about the Byleth patch is that it gave Ken and Ryu invulnerability on the bottom leg, at least on the ground. In the air, only the spinning leg gets the invul, but on the ground, both legs do, which is great because that means that, as an example, let's have Terry here throw out a power wave. All right, you can essentially go over it and go for a punish, right? So that's pretty good, right? Another thing is, he has something pretty stupid, which is light shoryuken. So if you've played against me, you'd know that I tend to spam light shoryu at times, even in neutral, right? Because if a character doesn't really have a projectile or isn't really good at catching it, then what they're going to do is they're going to try to run up and punish the light shoryu, and then after they try punishing this, well, then they're getting hit with a heavy, right? Which is still pretty good, right? In terms of out of shield game, your only really good out of shield option is up B, And I say up B because even if you try doing the input through shield, it's not gonna work out for you. I mean, even if you do double diagonal, you just can't really do it too well. So that sucks. So you only have up B, but up B is still pretty good at catching jumps and other such things, and it still kills pretty decently, like 140-ish for most characters, right? And again, you can use it to catch people jumping, so they might get hit with the final hit, which means, hey, they might die a bit earlier depending on whether or not they react in time, which they won't most likely, and thus they'll die pretty poorly and it'll kill it relatively early. So still pretty good nonetheless. And finally, let's talk about focus. Obviously, Ken's focus isn't as good as Ryu, like literally in every way. First of all, the only thing it has better is that Ken's focus hitbox is technically lower than Ryu's. It hits slower. That's one thing. But everything else is just a complete downside. One, it's 1 frame slower, which is hilarious to me, but it's 1 frame slower. Two, Ryu pushes himself forward, right? He pushes himself forward when he does focus attack. So even if the hitbox, let's say if Ryu doesn't move, he just stands still, even if the hitbox wouldn't necessarily hit, because Ryu juts himself a bit forward, it will catch the opponent. For Ken, however, he stands still. He doesn't move from his standing position. And obviously the hitbox grows with the focus hitbox because that'll hit, right? But if I were to do that again with focus 1, that's not gonna hit. Or focus 2, not gonna hit. But focus 3, well, I mean, I guess I have to be even a bit closer. All right, so that's focus 1, focus 3. So there you go. As an example, the hitbox does get bigger, but at the end of the day, it's not really that much of a benefit, right? But if you do get focus, then obviously, whether it's focus 2 or focus 3, you get big damage, right? I mean, one of my favorite things to do off of like a focus 2 can sometimes be this combo, you know, and then just get a follow-up from there. And just like with Ryu, Ken has light, medium, and heavies for all of his special moves, excluding focus, obviously, and excluding these moves. The only thing these moves have is that if you hold the button, you get this Inazuma kick. So, for instance, here's Ken is really good at showing this off. So here is light Shoryu. It's a single hit. Heavy Shoryuken is a triple hit, but medium Shoryuken is a double hit. So there you go. There is light, medium, and heavy variations for Shoryuken. And in the air, it's more preferred that you do medium, though you want to delay the medium after, say, an up air, because if you delay the medium, then there is a chance, it won't always happen, it's still inconsistent, but you're more likely than not to hit the second hit at the apex of the Shoryuken, which is really good because that basically means you hit them with the max height of Shoryuken, which means they're much higher, and the hitbox is going to launch them much farther into the blast zone. All right, they nerfed it, should return it to how it was, but whatever. But either way, still pretty good nonetheless. And with that, the only other thing I guess I can mention is his grabs aren't that bad either. Funny enough, Hell Wheel has the same damage and knockback as Ryu's back throw. The only difference is, well, Ken rolls, which means that, say, mid stage, now you're at, now you're at ledge essentially. Now you're off stage. So pretty good, all things considered. And against fast followers, though obviously Terry isn't one, but we will use him as an example. You can grab at 0 and get a follow-up. On fast followers, you'll always get that heavy proximity jab, which is pretty good because then you can go into crescent kick and go into crazy follow-ups. It's good. It's great. Right. So with that, I think I covered some of the main things I want to talk about in terms of Ken's strengths. Right. I mean, I guess the only other thing I should mention is that Tatsu does go through projectiles. I would say, based on my testing, that it's a bit more inconsistent with Ken than it is for Ryu, because for Ken, I guess it's because of how fast his his leg moves that the projectiles just tend to go through and hit Ken more than say like Ryu's, where Ryu's leg is more out, right? It's more than likely to catch a projectile and pass right through, but obviously still having a move that allows you to get in is pretty good, because one of the main things that Ken really didn't have before was neutral. Now he kind of does, you know. Tatsu is pretty good to just throw out there, you know, and utilize, because again, it has invulnerability, which means that most opponents aren't really gonna be able to beat that out unless you're a swordy. But hey, I never said swordies were the best matchups for shotos, right? And yeah, I think that's pretty much it, right? Obviously he does have some moves that may seem a bit worthless but are good situational. Otherwise, like this move, obviously it's a double hit, but you're never really gonna see the main hit all too often, you know, unless I have like Terry run into it. But you'll generally not see it, this first and second hit, connect all the time. It's generally just a second hit. Not as good as Ryu's, where Ryu's just a single hit roundhouse. The roundhouse isn't as good as Ken's, right? Because Ken's has a bigger hitbox and has invulnerability, but still pretty good. I mean, I don't know if you I mean, to compare the range, this is my down tilt. All right, down tilt, but that still hits. So pretty good, and it's super disjointed, right? Because again, it has invulnerability and the hitbox extends farther than the actual foot itself. So against, say, a Martha or Roy, if they try to approach with like a fair as an example, you can beat out their fair pretty convincingly, right? Pretty nice, pretty nice. Let's talk about weaknesses. So one of the main weaknesses that I kind of brought up earlier was Ken's combos. Ken's combos are long, right? His strings are long. Now, obviously, the main thing everyone tells you is just SDI, lol. Which is true. I have a friend. He plays Meta Knight. He plays a bunch of other characters too. And when he plays against me and I play Ken, SDIs out of my combos all the time. I generally have to read what he does to punish. However, when it comes to things that should be guaranteed, quote unquote, they're really not. And because of that, Ken can sometimes not get that much damage from combos. It's just that most people in this game obviously don't bother trying to SDI Ken's combos. I mean, I guess for some people the question is, why would you? But if you do SDI Ken's combos, then generally you will come out relatively unscathed, right? Because if you hard SDI, even if Ken tries to dash up and do something, at times it just won't be enough, depending on the character, right? Because then they either have good airspeed or they have an option that just lets them get away scot-free, right? Especially on some stages, like say Battlefield as an example, and I was playing like Samus against Ken. If the Samus decides to do an up B, they can land on the platform, and I could try to go for an up B, but then you have to consider, oh well, the up B on the top platform doesn't really have that much lag, and then the Samus can punish it. So, you know, when it comes to Ken's combos, they're great, you know, strings are great, all that sort of stuff. But for me, that's a bit of a problem if you know how to SDI against Ken. And obviously there's counterplay to it, but overall I'd still say it's a pretty big weakness. Another one of Ken's weaknesses is, unfortunately, unlike Ryu, Ken can't really play in multiple play styles. I mean, he can play this nice mid-range game, which is good and all, but he at some point is forced to approach, and he's not a rushdown character. He's more like a bait and punish character. It's more important to put it that way, because a rushdown character implies that the character is always on you. That's not necessarily the case with Ken. When he hits you, obviously he's always on top of you, but when it comes to your shield, that's not really true. Most of the time Ken is forced to just throw an option and bait it out. He can't really play the projectile war as well as Ryu can. He can't really deal that well with zoners. I mean, Ryu can't either, for the most part, but I'd say that Ryu is a bit better in that aspect than Ken. So yeah, Ken is, you know, Ken's quick and all that, but Ken, if you can't really move around, right, then what's really the point? Obviously, with both characters, they have focus, which allows them to get in, and hey, focus is really good because if, say, the opponent shields for Ken, right, and Ken hits it on their shield, he can get plus frames and, you know, add more pressure. But against zoners or swordies, obviously that's not always going to happen, so that's another important thing to take note of. However, that's pretty much in terms of his combos. It's a weakness more when you see it. You know, if I describe it, it doesn't seem like that much of a big deal, but when you actually see it for yourself, obviously I can't replicate it all too well because, well, the reality is I'm a single person, right? I mean, at best I can just have the CPU to shuffle a lot, but the shuffling in itself is random, right? So like there, like Ken can just barely catch Terry, not for other characters obviously, but still important to note. Another thing is too is that some of his combos can feel like RNG. Not gonna lie, okay, I'm being a bit honest here, because as an example, let's have Terry here. Just be in control, right? So he doesn't do anything. So with Tatsu, for instance, as an example, let's use Tatsu as an example. Tatsu can knock down at like late percents ish. I want to say no, that's way too much. So I think like around 80-ish. 80-ish is like the sweet spot, I guess. Right? Yeah, around there, right? So that's nice, but obviously at much higher percents, you can't really use light because it pushes them too far away. So you think, okay, well, I can use heavy, because heavy before used to be able to do that pretty well. Oh, maybe if I, even with input, ooh, that kind of sucks. So in order to get around this, you have to do medium Tatsu, which you may not always get consistently. It kind of sucks, but there is a consistent way to do it. Just let go of the button after the first spin. But yeah, don't always rely on that too. In terms of how many hits it does, it's around the same as heavy, but the benefit to this version is that at higher percents, the higher percents which you would kind of like it to kind of hit at, it can knock down. But honestly, because of how heavy Tatsu and medium Tatsu are, sometimes I can't even tell whether or not I'm getting it or not. It's just that whack. I'm gonna be very upfront with it. It's just pretty whack because I believe the damage output is pretty similar and the amount of hits it does is pretty similar. So yeah, kind of an awkward move to utilize, right? So, you know, we see that when it comes to killing, Ken can struggle at killing, especially at later percent. And the reason why heavy Tatsu doesn't knock down at high percents like it used to, because obviously this thing would do it all the time. The reason why it doesn't do it anymore is because in one buff, I quote unquote, and this is something I've talked about before where I say sometimes buffs can be nerfs. They buffed heavy Tatsu that it connects better, but it made the move worse. So that kind of sucks. So you're forced to use medium, but then again, medium can kind of be inconsistent to get sometimes. It's pretty whack. So just be wary about that. And obviously another weakness of Ken is recovery. Similar to Ryu, it's essentially the same thing between the two, though there are some things to take note of with Ken, obviously because of like with Ken's overall, I'd say, move set, right? It's a bit easier at times for Ken to get back on stage, like since for instance, Shoryuken has more knockback, gets them off the ledge, right? So they can't really harass you on ledge as easily. However, for me, like me personally, this is my own personal opinion. This isn't universal opinion, but because it knocks away so hard compared to Ryu's, I kind of find it a bit worse in that aspect, because even if you reverse the Shoryuken, they're still way too far away. And I described in that Ryu analysis that if you do a Shoryuken or reverse Shoryuken, because of the low knockback, you can follow up with a back air, which can lead to, well, a kill. But for Ken, he can't really do that all too well unless the opponent lets go of the controller or does a panic option right after. I mean, yes. So in that respect, kind of don't like it all too much, but there you go. Same thing, he can use focus to move around in the air, which is pretty good, especially off stage. It can still tank a hit. Tatsu is pretty much the same thing as Ryu's, but since it's a multi-hit, you may not get jank kills like a Ryu can. Like Ryu, if you try to punish Tatsu, you can actually end up getting killed yourself for trying to punish it if you mess up with a punish. It's pretty wacky because then Ryu will send you behind him and you lose your stock, where with Ken, no such thing is possible. However, there is one good thing about Ken, I will say, and that is if the opponent is at ledge or they're recovering at ledge. I mentioned this before, how you can do like a Tatsu at ledge sort of thing. Ken does this better because he pushes them down. So if the opponent says, let's use Fox as an example. Say Fox tries to double jump up B, then you can catch the up B because you'd be directly above Fox. As an example, I'm just using that as an example. Ryu can't really do that. Instead, Ryu kind of forces you to tech, right? And if you mess up the tech, then obviously you lose your stock. But if you don't mess up the tech, then you continue on your merry way. So with Ken, it's all up to perspective on which one you think is better in that respect. But overall, I think Ken is a solid character. He's pretty good. He's not a character, like, he's not a rush on character. People make that mistake a lot. He's not a rush on character. You don't go in and mash your face on the controller, right, like you can with, like, say, me, Brawler, or Fox, who can just move around on the opponent, even on their shield, and just completely mix them up, where Ken's not that type of character, right? Now, obviously, Ken has some kill confirms I didn't mention, stuff like that, but that's because he shares some with Ryu, and I already made my real analysis, so I'm not going to get too deep into it, like double down air as an example, right? But still, Ken is a strong character, just in my opinion. Like with Terry, I feel he's a bit overrated. He definitely has a lot of strengths, but also has a lot of weaknesses that I don't think people really know all too much. And again, Ryu can play multiple playstyles. Ken can't really do that. He's forced to sort of play this one game plan, which is, it works, it's solid, but Ryu has like 3 solid playstyles, and Ken has like 1, maybe 2 solid playstyles. You know what I'm saying? And I like having multiple playstyles for one single character than having, you know, just the one for a single character, right? Because that means I can mix up my opponent in a way that they won't really expect what I'm going to do. Whereas like with Ken, if you know the Ken matchup, you kind of expect certain things to happen in that matchup. But still, strong character, very strong character. And one last thing to note, Nair, busted move. Jumping, not busted. I know people who play me are gonna say, well, Sab, you jump a lot anyways. So I say, don't get hit, lol. But with that, I think I kind of illustrated my point with Ken. Strong character, has flaws, overrated, but definitely good. He's not better than Ryu though. I'm just saying that right up front. He's not better than Ryu. Ryu's definitely the best out of all the FG characters, right? Except Min Min. She counts. I hate that she counts. I love Min Min, but it is what it is, right? You can't really help that. But with that all being said, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please take care of yourselves, and remember that Ken also has focus taunts. And isn't that the best part about Ken? Come on. Alright, well, let's get to 1,000 subs before the end of the year. And like I said before, if you feel like I said anything wrong, or you felt like I said something that or I missed something, right? If you felt like I missed something, or the case could be, like matchup specific stuff. I know like matchup specific stuff, but I don't really want to talk about that. Like how with ice climbers, as an example, you can grab one ice climber down throw, and if they shield, it breaks their shield. Or you can use up throw to kick away Nana or Luma in that example. I don't want to talk about stuff like that, because yes, if you didn't know, I didn't mention this in the Ryu one. If you didn't know this, that's a hitbox. Now you know, right? You didn't know that before? There you go. That's a hitbox. Hope you learned something new from that. But yeah, and obviously I didn't talk about auto turnaround because I don't feel like I need to with Ken, because obviously pretty plain and simple, auto turnaround is busted, and I love back air, I do, but I wouldn't trade it for auto turn. Before I used to say it like as a meme, and I wanted to make myself sound super serious about it. I would not trade back here for auto turn, definitely not. So, you know, busted character, you know. Imagine not being able to cross up. I don't know if I ever mentioned this in the Ryu video too. I'm trying to recollect, but I also forgot to mention that if you parry and you cross up Ken or Ryu, they do auto turn to whatever direction you're facing. So again, just wanted to bring more of that stuff up. With that all being said, please take care of yourselves. Have an amazing rest of your day. I hope your day is going swimmingly. And well, again, I have to say it again because it's the outro. 1,000 subs before the end of the year. Come on, we're so close to 600 anyways, so why not get to 1,000? And hope you have an amazing day. Take care. Peace.
I'm coming through, partner, we can do this right. You're the fire, I'm the wind tonight. Burning dread, haha, that's right.